Many believe the problem is bad people in the world. They are wrong. The true danger lies in not understanding the degree of darkness within ourselves and others. Misjudge it, and you become prey. Master it, and you walk through any court, any workplace, any conflict, without fear. So today, we solve one question. What level of dark personality are you? And what power does it give or take from you? In every kingdom, every city, and every home, there are individuals who wield influence not by strength of arm, but by quiet shadows within the human soul. Today, we explore those shadows, the 5 levels of the dark personality, so that you may learn whether you are the ruler of your nature or ruled by it. In every society, from the bustling markets of Florence to the silent halls of modern power, human nature has never been a single unchanging force. It stretches, twists, and grows according to circumstance. Darkness within the human soul is not a switch that is simply on or off. It moves in degrees, in layers, in levels that reveal how a person learns to use, or fails to use, their instincts for survival, influence, and dominance. And as we explore this first keynote, understand that you are not observing some distant idea. You are observing the mechanics of your own nature, piece by piece, level by level. Most people imagine darkness as something possessed only by villains, tyrants, or cruel manipulators. But in truth, darkness begins in the mildest places. It begins in the everyday decisions you make to protect yourself, to look superior, to gain even the slightest advantage over another. That desire to defend your name, to hide a weakness, to position yourself favorably, that is the seed. And from that seed, depending on the individual, grows a small shadow or a towering force. It is never the same in every person. Humanity does not produce identical minds. It produces unique combinations of fear, ambition, instinct, and calculation. The dark personality, therefore, must be understood not as a category, but as an evolution. Imagine a child who lies to avoid punishment. This is not evil. It is the earliest whisper of strategic thinking. Now imagine an adult who lies not out of fear but out of intention, using deception as a deliberate tool. Between these two lies the example of levels, the transformation of the same instinct into something sharper, more refined, more dangerous. The evolution of darkness mirrors the evolution of intelligence. At the earliest level, it is clumsy, accidental, almost innocent. As a person grows, gains experience, learns the consequences of truth and the power of perception, the darkness changes shape. It becomes smoother, quieter, and more intentional. The presence of these levels means that no two individuals will ever use their darker traits in the same manner. One person may use manipulation purely to avoid conflict, another may use it to secure lifelong advantage, another may use it to control entire groups. The difference is not the existence of darkness itself, but the mastery over it. And mastery is always the dividing line between those who remain victims of their impulses and those who rise above them, shaping outcomes rather than being shaped by them. To understand darkness as levels is to understand power itself. A man who has a spark of self-interest but no discipline may damage only himself. A man with deep control over his desires, emotions, and strategies may influence entire systems. The evolution from one level to the next is not marked by outward behavior, but by inward transformation. At the lowest level, a person reacts. At the higher levels, a person plots. At the highest level, a person orchestrates. This evolution mirrors the rise of leaders, rulers, negotiators, and manipulators across every age. Those who understand their own darkness can weaponize it. Those who ignore it are weaponized by others. The idea of good versus evil simplifies human nature too much. What we truly see in individuals is not moral contrast, but strategic contrast. The levels of dark personality represent how much a person knows about themselves, how deeply they understand their own fears, desires, and weaknesses. For at the root of every dark trait is a truth. People seek control because they fear losing it. They manipulate because they fear vulnerability. They deceive because they fear exposure. As a person matures, experiences betrayal, power, love, and loss, those instincts transform. They either become reckless impulses or refined tools. Some individuals remain at a basic level their entire lives. They never learn how to use their instincts effectively. Their darkness is shallow, reactive, often self-destructive. Others rise upward because circumstances force them to learn. A betrayal teaches them the value of secrecy. A failure teaches them the necessity of strategy. A victory teaches them the power of influence. Slowly, step by step, their darkness becomes structured. It gains intention. It becomes a quiet companion rather than a chaotic force. This keynote reveals that darkness is not solely destructive. It can be protective, strategic, and even necessary. A ruler with no darkness becomes a puppet. A leader with too much darkness becomes a tyrant. But the individual who knows the precise level of their dark nature can navigate human conflict with clarity. They can discern when to withhold truth, when to reveal it, when to charm, when to intimidate, when to retreat, and when to strike. In life, you are constantly surrounded by people at different levels of this spectrum. Some seem harmless, yet cause unintended harm because they lack control. Some appear charming, yet operate with subtle precision beneath their smile. Some seem calm and disciplined, yet hide a mind calculating 3 moves ahead. Understanding the levels means understanding how these individuals will behave, how they will respond, and how much influence they seek to exert. It allows you to recognize danger before it reaches you, manipulation before it ensnares you, and opportunity before it escapes you. This is why recognizing the graded nature of darkness is essential. It is not merely a psychological curiosity, it is a map of human behavior, a diagram of ambition, a scale of strategic potential. It explains why some people crumble when challenged while others rise, why some individuals use deceit impulsively while others use it masterfully, why some are feared, others respected, and many simply overlooked. It reveals how a person evolves from innocent instinct to calculated influence, from raw emotion to refined strategy, from shadow to mastery. In the theater of human existence, the majority of souls walk quietly in the dim light of their own minor ambitions and minor fears. They are not the villains of grand tales, nor are they masters of manipulation. They occupy the space between innocence and true darkness, a shadow so mild that it often goes unnoticed, even by themselves. Yet, this mild shadow is a world in itself, and understanding it is crucial if one wishes to navigate human interaction without falling prey to those who dwell in deeper shadows. Most people believe that darkness is dramatic, violent, or overt. They imagine tyrants plotting in castles, deceivers weaving intricate schemes, and manipulators exploiting every weakness they observe. But in truth, the human shadow is often subtle. It appears in the small acts of self-preservation, in the quiet exaggeration of one's own importance, in the careful avoidance of discomfort, in the petty rivalries that occupy the everyday mind. These are not the actions of great darkness, but they are shadows nonetheless, and they are everywhere. The mild shadow is easy to overlook because it is rarely destructive to others in significant ways. It is the hesitation to admit a fault, the small lie to protect one's image, the envy that whispers quietly in the heart. These behaviors are neither noble nor malicious. They are instinctive. They arise from the natural desire to protect oneself, to maintain position, to avoid pain. And yet, they are the foundation of all darker behaviors. The person who never examines their mild shadow is at risk of allowing it to grow unnoticed, like a seed buried too deep to see, sprouting roots that may one day twist through their decisions without their awareness. Most people never ascend beyond this level of shadow. They act reactively rather than strategically, driven more by fear or convenience than by deliberate calculation. They do not consciously plot the manipulation of others. They simply allow circumstances to guide their actions. When life presents a challenge, they react emotionally. When an opportunity appears, they grasp it without understanding the implications. The mild shadow is therefore not a tool but a reflection, a mirror of instinct rather than mastery. Yet, the mild shadow has its utility. It allows survival in a world that demands compromise. It permits the navigation of social situations without constant confrontation. It encourages politeness, discretion, and restraint. Those who dwell here are not inherently weak. They are cautious. They prefer stability to chaos, predictability to risk, and comfort to challenge. Their darkness is measured, minimal, and often harmless to others, but it is rarely transformational. It does not shape kingdoms, manipulate empires, or alter destinies. It shapes only the quiet, incremental steps of everyday life. The mild shadow is also deceptive in its subtlety. Because it is so common, many fail to recognize its presence. A small act of dishonesty, a fleeting envy, a private irritation, these are all forms of shadow that often go unnoticed by the person themselves. They are like whispers in a crowded hall, easy to ignore, but persistent enough to influence behavior. And yet, for those who are aware, this level of shadow offers insight. By recognizing the mild darkness in oneself, one can predict the mild darkness in others. One begins to understand the small but significant ways in which human beings influence one another, how minor manipulations can ripple into larger consequences, and how even the simplest desires for advantage can quietly shape social dynamics. It is also important to note that the mild shadow is not fixed. Many individuals spend a lifetime within its boundaries, never moving beyond reactive behaviors. They live their lives responding to circumstance, adjusting their image, avoiding exposure, and managing minor fears. They do not seek the power that comes with mastery, nor do they have the patience to cultivate influence over others. Yet, the mild shadow is a proving ground. Those who observe it closely can learn the patterns of human behavior, the triggers of fear and desire, the subtle motivations that often drive even the most seemingly rational actions. It is a school of human nature, a quiet arena in which one can prepare for deeper levels of understanding. To dwell in mild shadows is to experience life in its practical, ordinary form. There is comfort here, yes, but also limitation. The person who remains at this level can navigate society, maintain relationships, and avoid many dangers, but they rarely influence events on a larger scale. They respond to the world rather than shape it. They are often content with minor victories and small advantages, unaware of the broader strategies that those with greater mastery employ. The mild shadow is also instructive because it reveals the early stages of manipulation. Even small lies, subtle flattery, and discreet avoidance of conflict are forms of influence, tiny exercises in human strategy. Recognizing these behaviors within oneself is the first step toward greater self-awareness. Observing them in others allows one to navigate social dynamics more effectively. It is a level of darkness that is not feared but understood, a shadow that provides lessons in perception, patience, and restraint. Those who occupy mild shadows often underestimate their own influence, and they overestimate the influence of more obvious forms of darkness. They see the grand schemers, the manipulative leaders, the cold strategists, and they imagine themselves powerless. But mild shadows, subtle as they are, accumulate. They affect decisions, shape outcomes, and influence the people around them in ways that are quiet but persistent. Understanding this reality is the key to surviving among those who operate at higher levels of dark personality, for even small shadows can clash, amplify, or align to create forces far greater than they appear. In observing mild shadows, one begins to see the spectrum of darkness within humanity. One begins to understand that evil, manipulation, and ambition are not merely traits of the extraordinary or infamous, but of ordinary people, expressed quietly, subtly, and incrementally. The mild shadow exists everywhere, in the office where colleagues protect their reputation, in families where envy whispers behind smiles, in friendships where subtle competition shapes behavior. These shadows are the soil from which greater darkness can grow, if cultivated with intent, or remain as the gentle, unnoticed influence of instinct. The recognition of mild shadows is therefore not an exercise in judgment, but an exercise in awareness. It allows one to see the potential for darkness without exaggeration, to measure influence without fear, and to navigate human relationships with precision. Those who master this awareness can protect themselves from the manipulations of others, and perhaps begin to elevate themselves toward levels of calculated influence that remain invisible to those who dwell only in reactive behavior. Mild shadows, in essence, are the foundation of all dark personality. They are the first lessons in ambition, desire, and strategy. They teach restraint, observation, and patience. They demonstrate the subtle ways in which humans seek advantage and guard themselves against loss. And while they may never lead to great power, they are the quiet undercurrent in which human nature flows, shaping decisions, relationships, and even destiny in ways that few consciously recognize. In the study of human nature, one must understand that darkness is not synonymous with evil. Too often, the masses confuse the two, imagining that those who rise in cunning, manipulation, and influence are inherently cruel or morally corrupt. Yet the truth is far more subtle and far more instructive. The higher levels of dark personality are not defined by the capacity to harm, but by the capacity to understand, control, and direct both oneself and others. It is mastery, not malevolence, that distinguishes the ordinary from the extraordinary. To reach higher levels, a person must first cultivate a profound understanding of human behavior. It is not enough to react instinctively to threats or desires. One must observe carefully, analyze relentlessly, and anticipate consistently. At these levels, every word, every action, every glance carries weight. The mastery of strategy begins here, in the quiet awareness that human beings are predictable in their unpredictability, and that insight into their patterns is the currency of influence. Those who lack this insight may act boldly, yet their actions are often wasted, misdirected, or counterproductive. Restraint is equally crucial. The mastery of higher levels requires the discipline to act only when necessary. Impulsivity is the enemy of true power. Those who cannot control their own emotions, their own instincts, or their own desires are trapped by them. At higher levels, darkness is tempered. A manipulator may possess the knowledge to strike, deceive, or dominate, yet refrains because the timing is not right, the conditions are imperfect, or the gain is insufficient to justify exposure. This is not weakness, it is strategy in motion. Restraint transforms potential chaos into controlled influence, turning raw ambition into calculated advantage. Human insight, perhaps the most defining trait of higher-level darkness, involves seeing people as they truly are, beneath the masks they wear. It is the ability to discern motivations hidden beneath politeness, to perceive fear cloaked in courage, to detect desire concealed by indifference. The master of strategy does not rely on outward appearances or spoken words alone. They understand that the human mind is layered, contradictory, and malleable. By recognizing the hidden currents of thought and emotion, they navigate social landscapes with precision, avoiding pitfalls and seizing opportunities that remain invisible to the inexperienced. Those who dwell at these higher levels do not operate for spectacle or notoriety. They act silently, deliberately, with a clear understanding of the consequences of each move. They are not driven by cruelty, but by purpose. Every manipulation, every negotiation, every calculated influence serves a specific end. In this sense, the darkness they wield is almost scientific in nature, measured, precise, and highly effective. It is mastery, not malevolence, that allows them to achieve outcomes that others deem impossible. Consider the role of observation in this mastery. Those who ascend these levels spend more time watching than acting. They learn the habits of others, the subtle signs of weakness, the predictable patterns of behavior that reveal desire, fear, or loyalty. They do not rely on brute force or intimidation. Instead, they cultivate knowledge, understanding that insight is the ultimate weapon. By knowing others deeply, they control outcomes with minimal effort, often leaving their targets unaware of the influence being exerted. This is the mark of high-level darkness, quiet dominance achieved through understanding rather than coercion. Strategy, restraint, and insight converge in the ability to manipulate situations without being ensnared by them. Many who dabble in manipulation fall prey to their own traps. They overreach, act too soon, or reveal their intentions prematurely. The master, however, moves deliberately, weighing every choice against a long-term vision. They understand that influence is a game of patience, that timing is often more important than action, and that perception frequently outweighs reality in the human mind. Their power is subtle, pervasive, and enduring because it is exercised with precision. At higher levels, morality becomes relative, not irrelevant. The focus is not on adhering to rigid ethical codes, but on understanding the consequences of action and inaction. What may appear as cruelty to the untrained eye is often strategic restraint, and what may seem like benevolence may conceal an act of calculated protection. Mastery allows one to navigate this moral ambiguity without losing sight of objectives. The skilled individual acts with awareness, knowing which lines to cross, when to compromise, and when to assert dominance. Their darkness is guided by intellect, not impulse, by analysis, not emotion. The difference between lower and higher levels of dark personality is therefore not the presence of ambition or desire, but the refinement of its application. One person may be willing to deceive or manipulate occasionally, driven by immediate needs or petty grievances. Another operates continuously, with foresight, purpose, and self-control. The first may be noticed and resisted, the second often achieves influence without detection, guiding outcomes while remaining unseen. Mastery is what allows darkness to serve rather than betray, to empower rather than consume, to transform potential energy into actualized results. Finally, those who reach these levels recognize the interplay between self-mastery and external control. True power begins within. A person who cannot understand their own impulses, weaknesses, or desires cannot hope to navigate the impulses, weaknesses, and desires of others. Self-awareness becomes the foundation upon which strategy is built. Insight into one's own mind informs insight into the minds of others, creating a cycle of understanding, anticipation, and influence. The higher the level, the greater the awareness, and the more refined the ability to act with precision in the complex web of human interaction. In essence, the higher levels of dark personality reveal that darkness is a tool, not a trait. They demonstrate that strategy, restraint, and insight are more powerful than raw aggression or superficial cunning. Those who achieve mastery wield their shadow with purpose, shaping events, guiding individuals, and navigating social structures with a finesse that seems almost invisible to those around them. The darkness at this stage is disciplined, intentional, and subtle, a reflection not of evil, but of profound understanding of human nature, the mechanics of influence, and the delicate balance between action and patience. In the complex tapestry of human interaction, ignorance is the greatest vulnerability. To walk through life unaware of the level of darkness you possess is to hand power to those who have taken the time to study their own shadows. The fourth keynote reveals a truth that every wise observer of human nature must accept. Understanding your level of dark personality is not vanity, nor mere curiosity, it is survival. Without this awareness, you become prey, manipulated by forces you barely perceive, while those who have measured and honed their shadows act with precision and control. Most individuals wander through their lives assuming that morality, luck, or circumstance alone will shield them from harm. They believe that honesty will protect them, that virtue will safeguard their interests, and that strength of character will prevent exploitation. Yet history and experience prove otherwise. The unrecognized shadow, however mild, exposes one to the manipulations of those operating at higher levels. When you cannot gauge your own instincts, desires, or impulses, you fail to anticipate how others might exploit them. The higher the level of darkness in another, the more likely they are to detect your vulnerabilities and use them to their advantage. Understanding your level begins with self-reflection. You must examine not only your behaviors but also your intentions. Ask yourself, when I act, do I respond impulsively to fear or desire, or do I measure my actions carefully? Do I seek immediate satisfaction, or do I consider long-term consequences? Do I influence others deliberately, or am I easily swayed by their influence? These are not questions of morality, but of awareness. The answers reveal whether you operate in mild shadows, where instinct dominates, or higher levels, where mastery and foresight guide behavior. Without this insight, you remain a passive participant in life's complex interactions. Those who understand their level gain clarity in relationships, work, and social dynamics. Consider the workplace, where colleagues subtly compete for influence, recognition, and advantage. A person unaware of their own tendencies may assume that everyone operates with honesty and fairness. They may share information indiscriminately, trust too quickly, or fail to recognize subtle manipulation. In contrast, a person who understands their own level can anticipate these behaviors, protect their interests, and respond strategically. Knowledge of one's shadow allows for discernment, when to trust, when to withhold, and when to counteract. Beyond protection, understanding your level enables deliberate interaction with others. You begin to perceive the levels of darkness around you. Not every individual seeks dominance, and not every interaction is a battle. Some operate in mild shadows, cautious and reactive. Others are strategic, calculating, and deliberate. Recognizing these differences allows you to adjust your approach. You learn which behaviors provoke resistance, which inspire compliance, and which remain invisible. In essence, understanding your own shadow allows you to read the shadows of others, turning awareness into a shield and a tool. The absence of this understanding is dangerous, because darkness is not always obvious. Those who operate at higher levels often cloak their influence behind charm, politeness, or apparent benevolence. They observe, measure, and anticipate, while you remain unaware of the forces acting upon you. Every unguarded word, every unchecked emotion, every impulsive decision becomes a lever for others. Without insight into your level, you are navigating a battlefield blindfolded, assuming safety where none exists, and unknowingly granting control to those who have mastered their shadows. History provides countless lessons of individuals undone by ignorance of their own levels. Kings, generals, and statesmen have been betrayed not by superior numbers, but by a failure to understand their own weaknesses and the intentions of others. The ability to recognize your tendencies, your motivations, and your limits allows you to avoid these pitfalls. You learn to guard your vulnerabilities, to anticipate exploitation, and to act in ways that preserve your influence. Knowledge of self becomes a defensive armor, protecting not only personal interests but also strategic advantage in every sphere of life. Understanding your level also fosters emotional intelligence. A person aware of their own shadow recognizes when envy, fear, or pride drives behavior. They can separate instinct from strategy, controlling impulses that might otherwise invite manipulation. Emotional self-awareness allows for thoughtful responses, not reactive behavior. It reduces the risk of being drawn into traps set by others because the individual can distinguish between surface appearances and underlying intentions. By mastering their internal landscape, they become less susceptible to external control. Moreover, comprehension of your level equips you to navigate alliances, negotiations, and conflicts with precision. You learn when to align with others, when to distance yourself, and when to influence subtly. Those who lack this understanding often miscalculate motives, underestimate cunning, and overestimate trustworthiness. In contrast, self-aware individuals can act proactively, using the knowledge of their own tendencies to anticipate outcomes and mitigate risks. Every decision becomes strategic rather than reactive. Every relationship becomes a domain of calculated interaction rather than accidental influence. Understanding your level is not merely about protection from harm, it is about empowerment. It transforms fear into foresight, vulnerability into resilience, and reaction into strategy. When you know the extent of your shadow, you can move through life with clarity, recognizing opportunities, avoiding pitfalls, and preserving control over your own destiny. Without this understanding, even small interactions can become traps, even minor decisions can become liabilities, and even seemingly safe environments can conceal subtle manipulation. The mastery of self-awareness also creates the capacity for discernment in others. When you understand your own shadow, you begin to perceive the intentions and strategies of those around you with greater accuracy. You can identify subtle attempts at influence, manipulation, or control, and respond appropriately. You no longer react blindly to external pressures, but act with calculated precision. Your level of understanding becomes both shield and compass, guiding your choices and protecting your autonomy in a world where human nature is rarely transparent. Recognizing the importance of knowing your level means accepting responsibility for your own influence. It requires honesty, introspection, and courage. You must confront tendencies you may not like, acknowledge impulses you would rather ignore, and measure strengths and weaknesses without delusion. But in doing so, you gain a rare advantage: the ability to navigate human interaction with foresight, to protect your interests, and to act decisively when others are blindsided by ignorance. Knowledge of self becomes the ultimate safeguard against manipulation, deception, and unanticipated consequences. In the study of human nature, it is not the presence of darkness alone that defines danger, but the union of darkness with ignorance. The mind that possesses cunning, manipulation, or ambition without understanding is a volatile force, capable of destruction not only to others, but to itself. Machiavellian wisdom teaches that knowledge, foresight, and self-awareness are the restraining and guiding principles of power. Darkness alone is inert. It becomes formidable only when paired with insight. To grasp this concept is to understand why some individuals wreak havoc while others move through the world unseen, shaping outcomes with quiet precision. Darkness, in its raw form, is present in every human being. It manifests as desire, fear, ambition, envy, and the impulse to influence others. These traits are neither inherently good nor evil. They are natural mechanisms for survival and success. A child who lies to protect a secret, a merchant who negotiates aggressively to secure profit, a politician who strategizes to gain advantage, all exhibit elements of darkness. The key differentiator is not the existence of these traits, but the awareness with which they are wielded. A person ignorant of their impulses may act destructively, while one who understands them can manipulate, persuade, and control outcomes with skill. Ignorance magnifies danger because it obscures consequences. Consider the individual who acts impulsively, driven by jealousy or pride, without understanding the reactions of others or the larger context of their actions. Their darkness is untamed, unpredictable, and often self-defeating. They may achieve temporary victories but create long-term liabilities, alienate allies, and expose vulnerabilities that more astute observers will exploit. It is not the presence of ambition or desire that threatens society. It is the lack of strategic awareness that allows these forces to operate without control. Machiavelli understood that knowledge transforms raw potential into effective action. A person who comprehends human nature, the motivations of others, and their own capabilities can harness darkness without falling victim to it. Strategy becomes the scaffold upon which raw instincts are refined, restraint becomes the channel through which impulses are directed, and insight becomes the lens through which every choice is evaluated. Without these elements, darkness is like an untended flame. It may illuminate, but it also consumes indiscriminately. The danger of ignorance is compounded when darkness encounters positions of influence. Leaders, rulers, and decision-makers who act without self-awareness often create outcomes far beyond their control. Policies enacted in pride, vengeance, or fear can destabilize entire nations. Alliances forged without understanding motives can crumble under pressure. Negotiations conducted without insight can betray trust and provoke resistance. Machiavellian wisdom teaches that power without understanding is a perilous burden, and that mastery of the self and comprehension of others are prerequisites for effective leadership. Even at lower levels of human interaction, ignorance paired with darkness produces subtle yet potent consequences. In personal relationships, an individual unaware of their own envy or desire for control may manipulate friends or partners unintentionally, causing tension, mistrust, and resentment. In workplaces, unchecked ambition may lead to sabotage, miscommunication, or mismanagement, harming careers and reputations. Ignorance does not remove the force of darkness. It merely ensures that its application is careless, chaotic, and damaging to both the wielder and the target. Conversely, darkness paired with understanding becomes a disciplined tool. Knowledge allows an individual to predict reactions, plan moves, and act with precision. Self-awareness provides a map of strengths and vulnerabilities, ensuring that impulses are neither wasted nor self-destructive. Insight into human behavior allows manipulation, persuasion, or influence to occur with minimal risk and maximum effect. In this way, the potential danger of darkness is harnessed into strategic advantage, converting what might have been chaos into control. The lessons of history are replete with examples of individuals whose ignorance amplified the danger of their ambitions. Impulsive rulers, unscrupulous generals, and unreflective leaders often achieve dramatic results, but their successes are fragile, their legacies unstable, and their influence short-lived. Those who combine ambition with understanding, in contrast, operate with a quiet, almost invisible authority, shaping events over decades or centuries with minimal apparent effort. The difference lies not in the presence of darkness, but in the presence of knowledge and self-mastery. Machiavelli's insight illuminates the subtle interplay between awareness and instinct. A person who recognizes their own shadows, comprehends their motivations, and studies the behavior of others can act decisively while remaining unseen. They can wield influence, secure advantage, and protect themselves from manipulation without becoming enslaved by their impulses. Ignorance, on the other hand, allows darkness to act unchecked, producing outcomes that are random, destructive, and often regrettable. The human mind is naturally prone to overestimating virtue and underestimating subtle manipulation. Those unaware of their own shadows are often blindsided by the quiet, calculated influence of others. They assume honesty where none exists, simplicity where strategy prevails, and fairness where self-interest dominates. Ignorance prevents recognition of subtle cues, misreads intentions, and underestimates the depth of human complexity. Darkness, in the hands of the uninformed, is therefore doubly dangerous. It harms both the world around the individual and the individual themselves. Understanding this principle does more than prevent harm. It empowers mastery. The informed individual recognizes that the potential for darkness exists in everyone, including themselves, and uses this knowledge to anticipate, strategize, and navigate human interaction. They act with foresight, evaluate consequences, and apply influence selectively. In essence, they convert what might have been a destructive trait into a disciplined instrument of action, controlling circumstances rather than being controlled by them. Thus, Machiavellian wisdom makes a crucial distinction. Darkness alone does not endanger society or individuals. It is the combination of darkness with ignorance that produces real peril. Knowledge, self-awareness, and strategic thinking are the antidotes, transforming potential chaos into measured influence. The mastery of one's own impulses, coupled with comprehension of the motives and behaviors of others, ensures that darkness serves purpose rather than runs amok, creating power that is deliberate, controlled, and enduring. In the end, darkness is not a mark of evil, but a mirror of human nature. Every person harbors shadows, desires, fears, ambitions, and impulses that, when left unchecked, can shape behavior in subtle or dramatic ways. The journey through the 5 levels of dark personality reveals that it is not the presence of darkness that defines danger or power, but the mastery, awareness, and understanding that accompany it. From the mild shadows of everyday instinct to the disciplined strategy of the highest levels, each stage teaches lessons about influence, restraint, and insight. Knowing your level is not an exercise in vanity. It is a shield against manipulation, a guide to navigating human interaction, and a key to harnessing your own potential. The higher the mastery of strategy, restraint, and understanding, the more effectively one can act, protect oneself, and shape outcomes. Conversely, ignorance amplifies danger, turning even the smallest shadow into a force that can ensnare, mislead, or destroy. Machiavelli reminds us that true power lies in knowledge, knowledge of self, knowledge of others, and knowledge of the subtle mechanics of human behavior. Darkness, when wielded with awareness, becomes a tool. When left unchecked, it becomes a liability. By understanding the 5 levels of dark personality, You gain insight not only into others, but into yourself, unlocking the ability to move through life with clarity, strategy, and controlled influence. The question is not whether you have darkness, for you do. The question is, will your shadow control you, or will you control it?